All right, everybody that's a football fanatic, JP football fanatic fans, what's going on? JP here with you all once again. We're here to we're here live where we're about to cover all of the great crazy trades and the free agent signings that have been happening within this past week. A lot more came through today, rather than just what we had, what I put together late last night for you guys for tonight. But we'll definitely talk and touch bases on those things a little bit. But I definitely want to talk about like a lot of the biggest things that kind of went through this week. And yesterday, last night, were some really big trades that happened. You probably have tuned in with like the bottom line view. Tom Grossi was another one, and maybe that franchise guy who's been talking nothing but about crazy trades and all the free agent signings that are happening within this season, this off season, I guess you could say. And a lot of it was for good sake. Honestly, I think a lot of it was good, and a lot of it was kind of head scratching, a little bit questionable. You'll kind of figure that one out as we go on. I know I did this with Scott on. What did I do? I filmed it on Sunday night and it was released on Monday night. So I pre-recorded everything, but I'm recording everything tonight. I'm doing it all right now live, so that way I don't have to worry about doing it by the weekend or whatever, because I know it's going to be a lot. But there's a lot that I definitely want to try to cover. So, I'm going to try and go as quick as I can, kind of time myself a little bit, and just kind of keep it basic, short, sweet, and to the point, so that way I don't overdo time. So with all that being said, everybody, thank you for everybody that's tuning in tonight. I know we only have one person on right now, and hopefully that one person that is on right now, hopefully they will be able to help gain more peers, and hopefully more people will come along the way. This is a great channel and everything, so I'm just going to keep advertising the heck out of it until I get what I need. So, with all that being said, everybody, if you could please drop a like on this video, leave a comment down below. I say this all the time. I'll say it again. I always enjoy bringing football content to you guys, or any sports content for that matter. And your guys' opinion is just as important as it is mine. And I want to hear your feedback. I want to be able to hear what you have to say. And I want you to be able to give out your input on the channel. Guys, I know this is mine. I know I run this channel and everything. I know I do the podcast every week. But I do this for you guys. I don't just do it for me. I do it for you guys, because you guys love football, and so do I. And I want my opinions heard, whether or not you may hear from Colin Coward or all those or Stephen A. Smith or any of those guys. I mean, you may not hear them really caring about my opinion, but I like to share my opinions out. I like to get my feelings out there, because I want you guys to be able to hear what I have to say, and maybe you may have the same feelings too. So just kind of speak your mind a little bit. Help us out if you can. So like and comment on the videos if you're able to, and hopefully that will help this channel grow. And also, what else is going to help this channel grow is hitting that subscribe button. You see that subscribe button that's down there, guys? You see that? You probably see it down below as you're watching this video. Click on that, please. I'm telling you, this is a great channel. I do a lot of things. I talk a lot. I understand that. But I give a lot of good content out. And it's all because of you guys. I do it because I love talking with you guys. I love being able to provide content to you all. So if you could do that, please like, comment, subscribe. Anything that you guys can do to help this channel grow to be bigger and better than what it already is, it's going to come a long way. So trust me. Please do all those things. All will be good if you do them. So thank you. So we do have another person that is on. Thank you. Thank you, man. Means a lot. Hopefully we'll get some more people coming along the way. And with that being said, everybody, we can get started. So let's go ahead and let's do that. Let me just pull up my screen here real quick. So here we go. We're going to talk about some of these crazy trades. Again, I'm going to try and touch up on a lot of them as much as I can. But I also kind of want to save the time to kind of talk about some crazy trades and releases that we probably have heard from today. So I'm going to try and keep it short, sweet, and to the point as best as I can. And that's going to be starting off with the first one here. Stephon Gilmore. Oh, my goodness. All right, let's talk about this one. Stephon Gilmore is no longer a Colt. Instead, he is now a Dallas Cowboy. He was acquired from for the Dallas Cowboys just the other day. It was a Monday night, I believe it was. And following that, the Colts get themselves a fifth round draft pick for this draft season. So the Colts get a fifth round pick, and the Cowboys acquire Stephon Gilmore, the cornerback who's played with a couple of other teams during his tenure in the NFL. So he's played with the Patriots. We know how much success he's had with the Patriots. He's also played with the Panthers for, I believe, I would say maybe a season. I think half a season. I think I don't remember the whole entire details on how that whole trade occurred, but he was a Panther for a short while before he was traded to Indianapolis to be a corner for the Colts. And let me tell you something about Stephon Gilmore. He's up there in age now. I believe he's 31. He's getting up there in age, but this guy is a phenomenal cornerback for any defense that you put him into. He's the guy that really knows how to spark a funk, meaning like he understands how defenses play. He knows how to play coverage very well. He can cover receivers quite well, and that's exactly what he does. During his time with New England, especially the last couple of years with New England, we know how special he really was. We knew he probably won a lot of those games for the Patriots within like Tom Brady's last 2 to 3 years, I would probably say, because he's been with the Patriots for quite a while. And he was just electrifying as a corner. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to play the defense. And anytime that he was out there on the field, anytime that the ball was kind of in his way, he knows exactly what he needs to do to help a team out on defense. And that's exactly what he continues to do day in and day out. I would say he played very, very well with the Colts last year. I would say he probably helped the Colts win at least two or three of the four games that the Colts won last year, and they weren't a very good team whatsoever. They were a bit of a disaster with having Frank Reich getting fired in the middle of the season, then going to Jeff Saturday, a former sports analysis and radio personnel for the NFL for a lot of years, but he did have experience within the line, so having him come in as the interim coach was a complete disaster for him. So what do I think about this trade? Well, the Cowboys, I feel like they have good pieces around them. Like, we always know this about the Cowboys. We know how good on paper they really are until they start playing. And once they start kind of playing and get into a rhythm, they look like they're about to be like a top-notch team that's going to be at least in the top five. And then all of a sudden, they kind of just fell apart in the most important time of the year, and that's towards the end of the season into the playoffs. So I think getting Stephon Gilmore at that corner position there, maybe you could try and get him into like a nickel back sort of defense, which is something that the Cowboys typically like to get a lot of pressure on their linebackers. They like the linebackers to do a lot of the work, but I think getting that other corner is something that the Cowboys do need. Obviously, you have Trevon Diggs, and we know something about him is really, really special. And we know that this is something that we, as football fanatics and analysts, we know how special Trevon Diggs is to that defense. However, you get another solid corner like a Stephon Gilmore, just like with the Miami Dolphins. You now have Xavier Howard and you have Jalen Ramsey. That's the same exact thing. You're locked down at corners. Now you're going to have to force your receivers to kind of go outside, and you're going to have to try to hold up on a good offensive line to give the quarterback enough time to be able to find a wide open receiver. And it's going to be hard for the opposing teams to be able to pass the ball around, because if you pass the ball towards Stephon Gilmore's way, you're getting intercepted. That's just a straight up fact. Like with Trevon Diggs, who was a former receiver in college. You're throwing the ball to him, he's going to catch it, he's going to intercept it for you. That's why the Cowboys put him on defense and in the cornerback position. Now you got Stephon Gilmore. That's going to help your defense out a lot. It's going to take a lot of pressure off of the linebackers like Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence and all those guys. I think it's going to take a lot of pressure off of the defensive line and the linebackers but now we have the corner that can play well in man coverage and be able to play in zone coverage as well. Like, we know how special that really is. And that's something that the Cowboys definitely needed for quite a while. So I'm glad they got this other corner. I think it really helps them out a lot. It was a good trade for the Cowboys to get. The Colts, I feel like the Colts are in a rebuild mode, so I don't think they made out terrible of this. And I think the reasoning behind why they got this fifth-round pick, I believe it's mostly because of Stephon Gilmore's age. I think age kind of plays a factor in this. We're kind of seeing how much really is he really worth within the last, for these next couple of years. And knowing, the Cowboys like to, overpay their players quite often. They ended up getting him a pretty good deal that at the time of the trade of when that occurred. So this trade works out really well. I like it. I think Stephon Gilmore is going to do a lot of big things with the Cowboys defensively. I still think the Cowboys need more help than that, rather than just getting that corner. But it's definitely a start with getting an electrifying corner like Gilmore, and it's only going to help them get better on defense as the season goes on. So this was a good trade. The Colts will find someone eventually. They're in a rebuild mode right now, I believe. They're getting the picks that they need to get in the draft, and they're getting the players that they kind of need. So, they're trying to rebuild their team. So I get why I get the understanding of why they wanted to trade up at this point in time. So works out well for everybody. Now here's my favorite trade of the day from last night. The New York G-Men, or some people would call them the New York Giants, signed and traded for Darren Waller yesterday. Darren Waller, who is a former tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders for quite a few years under the quarterback of Derek Carr, now is a New York Giant as a tight end there. So they acquired Darren Waller, the Giants, whereas the Raiders acquire a third-round draft pick, and they get the number 100 overall pick in the draft. So there are some people that are a little upset about it. Some people feel like the age is definitely a big factor into why they're not too happy about it. And another thing about them, too, is they're not liking the fact that he is older, but he's very injury prone. And in some ways, yeah, I would say I kind of agree in a way. Like, I do concern about the way he does. I mean, I do concern about the fact that he is, older. I do consider the fact that injuries to him can definitely hinder around his playing time. However, I feel like the Giants definitely need someone like a Darren Waller to help out into this young and inexperienced Giants offense. I mean, you have Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, who are basically leaders of the Giants, but where the Giants really struggled last year, and they're going to continue to struggle until or unless they can acquire another solid receiver on their team. But they're young, they're inexperienced, they're kind of immature still. They need some time to develop, and they need some time to grow. The Bellinger kid that they were able to get last year was a good sign for them. Like, I am not saying that Bellinger was terrible whatsoever, but I feel like when you have young players like that, they're not very experienced. They don't really know enough about the NFL game and the play of what comes with it. And really, the conservative play calling came from Brian Daboll and company, and that's not a knock on them at all. I think conservative play calling and keeping Daniel Jones contained within his realm of comfortability helps a lot, but he didn't really have a reliable enough receiver that would stay healthy throughout the year. Obviously, Kenny Golladay was a bust. That was a waste of a pick for them, a waste of a trade for them. They also had a Wan'Dale Robinson who was kind of up and down, but there's not really anything that's like crazy about him. Hodges, Isaiah Hodges was probably one of their better receivers on the team, and Kadarius Toney was something really special, and he probably could have stayed with this team. However, they weren't able to acclimate him into the offense that they really needed. Therefore, they traded him to Kansas City, and look what happened from there. We all know the story about that after when he was traded to Kansas City. Now they've got a reliable receiver slash tight end blocker that I think he's a pretty good blocker, which is something the Giants do need help on with that line and being able to block when they need to. So that I think that really does help a lot. But Darren Waller is also one of the most targeted tight ends in the league too. As of last year I know was kind of a bit of a down year for him. But years prior with Darren Waller playing with the Raiders under Derek Carr, he's always been a reliable target for Carr and has been successful with them, during that time frame as well. So I think this is a pretty good trade. I like it a lot. I really think this helps out the passing game of the Giants quite a bit, which is something that I'm happy about. Again, a lot of people are questioning about the fact, is he going to stay healthy the full year? I do question that too. I think it's a good possibility he does stay healthy throughout the year. I think he honestly can. But I also do believe that he helps Jones a lot to rely on another target besides Saquon. I mean, we all know Jones, and we know how there are at times where Jones isn't he's kind of erratic when he's under pressure a lot. Last year, it was kind of a fluky year for Jones, and that's not a knock on Jones whatsoever, but a bit of a fluky year for him last year where he didn't really have to do a whole lot for the Giants to win as long as Saquon was in the offense, as long as he was content with playing the play action passes, throwing the ball like short fields and whatnot there with these receivers that he was able to get, and special teams players that were playing offense too, like a Richie James that played mostly special teams but helped out contribute to the offense last year, was conservative and it was game managing. This year, this can force Jones to push the ball now down the field, and getting a receiver like a Waller is going to help them in the long run because they can use him in a blocking end when they need to, and they can use him as a receiver if need be. It works out both ways, in my opinion. So I think it was good. I like the trade a lot. I think it's a good deal for the Giants. I think you kind of get him in that attribute of being where he needs to and giving him the opportunity to kind of mentor the young and inexperienced offense for the Giants, which we know they're probably at least another year or two away from really breaking out to be probably one of the favorites in the NFC. I think there's still a little bit of ways to go in that point, but I think the rebuild starts here, and I think they're, so far I think the new GM of the Giants showing. I think Brian Daboll is doing what he can to help the team grow, and he's helping them become, a more electrifying team and doing what they can with the players that they got. So it works out well. I think this is a good trade. I'm happy about this. I'm excited to see what Waller can do with Jones. I'm hoping it's a good connection, and I think it's another target for Jones. I really do. It's a reliable target. And then when you talk about the Giants, of course, you got to talk about the Jets in the same video. Sorry, guys, I'm a Jersey boy, so what can you expect from that? So the Jets, we already know about the whole Aaron Rodgers story. My goodness. Do we really have to go about that again? I'll just kind of say this, kind of short, sweet, and to the point, and like very vague. Aaron Rodgers, from what I heard from different sources and everything, it seems like it's almost a done deal. I think it's kind of close to it. But Aaron Rodgers seems to be probably going to be on the Jets next year. I think it's very likely that he will be with the Jets next year. We're still not sure on that. So Aaron Rodgers made the Jets a wish list. In order for him to join and play with the team, the Jets had them sign a whole bunch of players, or at least kind of accommodate to the needs that he wants. So who does that start with? Well, not Devontae Adams, because the Raiders are kind of stuck with him for a little bit. But instead, they were able to get Allen Lazard to a 4-year contract, a $44 million contract. So they were able to get Allen Lazard. So that's one of the biggest things that was on the wish list. And that was the first, and as far as I know, is the only signing of Aaron Rodgers so far from his wish list. He also asked for Randall Cobb. He also asked for Mercedes Lewis. and he's also asking for Odell Beckham Jr. Now, why is he asking for all of these players? Well, obviously because Green Bay receivers, these are the receivers that he has grown closer connections with. Alan Lazard especially is one of them, and is someone that he relied on a lot after Devontae Adams left. And Randall Cobb, who's been in the system for quite a while, too, also is a veteran that can help out like the young receivers as well. And getting Mercedes Lewis as well is another same thing with him too. And Odell Beckham Jr., I don't know why he wants Odell on this team. I doubt Odell is going to come to the Jets. We'll talk about that in another video about Odell and where he will probably go. But Alan Lazard was the first signing that the Jets do. Now, do I think this was a good signing? I don't think Alan Lazard is a personal. I personally don't think he's a true number one receiver. I don't think he really is in any system you put him in. He's probably at least a 2 or a 3 at very best. He's a good wideout. He can open like routes and everything. He can open up spaces to get open and make some plays down the field a little bit. But he's still. I still feel like the Jets have enough at the receiver end of things. Like they already have a Garrett Wilson, who was Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. They already have Breece Hall, running back, who should be back next year. I know he pretty much ruptured like his whole ACL last year in the middle of the season, which kind of stunk for him in his case because he probably could have, just as likely won Offensive Rookie as Garrett Wilson did. I think getting Alan Lazard is going to help in terms of the veteran locker room and the receivers. I think he'll be a good, mentor for them. As far as like the Jets system and offensive play calling, I mean, it shouldn't really change any different because Nathaniel Hackett, is going to be his offensive coordinator, is already familiar with what Hackett does in the offense that he does call, which is probably something that we're going to see in New York. So just putting that out there right now. But I think the contract is a lot of money. I think $44 million is a way too much for a wide receiver, especially if you're getting him on a 4-year deal like this. I think that's a lot of money for a wide receiver like that. But in a way, I kind of just think they're doing it at this point to satisfy Rodgers' needs, kind of like take his advice and kind of take him into the way, which is the way I kind of seem like it. But I think 44 is a lot of money for a receiver that I personally think is pretty overrated, in my honest opinion. I'm not. That's not a knock on Alan Lazard at all. He's made some plays in the past, but he's not worth $44 million. I'm just throwing that out there right now. I don't think there's not very many wide receivers that are worth this much amount of money, and I think Alan Lazard is definitely one of them. I think the Jets are definitely overpaying him in that aspect. But again, this is Aaron Rodgers they're talking about. They're trying to do whatever they can to comply with Rodgers' requests, and they're trying to just get him to play for this franchise and hopefully get them to another Super Bowl win, the first time in like over 50 years since Joe Namath. So I think it's going to be good for the veteran room. I think it'll be good for the locker room to have a veteran like Lazard. But again, we'll see how he fits into the system. I personally think he should be okay, knowing Nathaniel Hackett and the way that he calls offense. But I also do believe it's quite a bit much of the way they're paying him. Next, you got Taylor Heinicke, who is signing to a 2-year deal of $14 million to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, a resource that I did see from last night when I was looking at this is Taylor Heinicke is expected to be a backup to Desmond Ridder. So I kind of talked about this a little bit when I was doing my tier rankings of each of the quarterbacks heading into next season. I don't know I didn't expect Taylor Heinicke to really be a starter this year because with the way that Washington was looking at it, they wanted Sam Howell to be the starting quarterback of their team, and so far, as of today, they were able to get Jacoby Brissett on their team from the Commanders. So now, at this point, they're Jacoby Brissett. He's probably going to start over Sam Howell or at least be a backup at best there, but I'll kind of fill in more information when I get more of that. So that kind of forced Atlanta after releasing Marcus Mariota. This helps the Falcons now get a good veteran like Taylor Heineke. I like Taylor Heineke a lot. I've talked a lot about him on JP Football Fanatics this past season. I like his game of football. I like the way his charisma is. I like the way he has the swag for football. I think he's also just a very high energy type of quarterback and slash veteran slash backup slash mentor that you would want on your football team. I mean, just take a look at what Taylor Heineke has done since his time in the league. I mean, he was irrelevant for the longest time. I think a lot of people probably would have considered him Mr. Irrelevant. Ever since he joined the Commanders in the 2020 campaign, and towards the end of that season, he was in the middle of like med school. He was going to med school to become I believe it was like not a doctor, but he was becoming some kind of surgeon. And, the NFL was able to call him up and say, hey, you want to come play an NFL game with us? And sure enough, he came to practice, worked hard one week, and then he faced Tom Brady in the wild card round, and he was pretty close to beating him and played quite well in that game. So we know Taylor Heineke can play football, and that's no hidden fact whatsoever on that. The problem with Taylor Heineke really that I kind of feel like what sets him back, there's a lot of things that sets him back, is he's an accurate quarterback, but his arm mobility and his mobility outside of the pocket is very, very bare. I feel like the way that he throws the ball is nice, but it also is like the way he releases the football is very slow, very sluggish. But he is pretty accurate. I feel like he is an accurate quarterback for the most part. But what really sets him back is holding on to the ball too long, which is why that the Commanders never really wanted to give him that starting role. But the guy can win you games. He's won a ton of games with the Commanders. He has at least an above 500 record, and his stats, have been, at least just maybe below, just around the average line, I guess you could say a little bit. But it's a good sign for the Falcons to get him, because I don't think Desmond Ridder is the answer for this Falcons team that's basically in a rebuild. They're trying to build a new team that, they're trying to restructure a team, kind of being, I think they kind of want to be like a one-dimensional. They want to fit into Arthur Smith's offense, which is the offense that we saw him do when he was during his time in Tennessee. And that's what the Falcons kind of want from that. I think they just want to apply to the running game in terms of like who they have at running back. They have Tyler Algier. They have Cordell Patterson. As far as I know, he's still there, unless they trade him this week or whatever they decide to do, or release him. They're a running team. I think they're a run-first team, and that's something that Arthur Smith kind of got into the rhythm of when he was in Tennessee, with giving the ball to Derrick Henry and letting, Mariota try to run outside of the pocket and everything. But the problem with that was it just didn't work out in his way. That's why Marcus Mariota got, let go from the Titans. But, Arthur Smith is a good offensive coordinator that knows how to maneuver quarterbacks in and scramble around with what he's got. I mean, yes, he does not have a winning season yet with this franchise, and he's probably not going to for a while, unless if Atlanta decides to move on from him as coach. But what they do have is they're going to have a team that's going to be feisty, and they're going to play the best way possible. I think getting Taylor Heineke is someone that you want on your team, because it's someone that's going to light a fire up everybody's butt. He's the kind of guy that's going to have high energy all around this team. Even if they're not the greatest or the most athletic roster on this team, he's still going to want to win games, and he's proven that he can win games. Desmond Ridder has not yet. I understand where they're going with this. I understand why they wanted Desmond Ridder to, be a starter at some point, but I think you need to let the two quarterbacks battle it out and just see who's the winner in this one. And I think Taylor Heineke, I believe, is going to get the starting role at the end of summer camp, because I think, you need a veteran in this lineup, and you need someone that's going to have and pass on that positive energy that we've all seen Heineke have before. Next one I'll talk about is the Carolina Panthers. So we have no idea what's going on with the Carolina Panthers. We have no idea where this team is going to, and we have no idea if they're even going to keep the number one pick. And we don't even know if they're drafting another quarterback. So they were able to pick up another one yet again, and that was to sign Andy Dalton. They signed him to a 2-year contract of $10 million, which was something that is not, it's not unheard of. He's already made $10 million before as the backup with the Cowboys for 1 year after he was released from Cincinnati, and he performed quite well there. Now Andy Dalton, I always have had a soft spot and admiration for Andy Dalton for one or two reasons. One of them is because at this point in his career now, he's not going to be a starter in this league ever again. Like, he's not going to be a franchise starting quarterback in this league ever again. And that comes with age. It comes with the way he's played in recent years. Now, he's a backup that's going to be good. Like, he can definitely win you games. He's had a lot of experience in all sorts of different offenses that he's worked with in his time in the NFL, like with starting the first 9 to 10 years with the Cincinnati Bengals and learn under that offense. Then you'll look into, after that, you go into the Dallas Cowboys under Mike McCarthy there for a year to fill in for the injured Dak Prescott. Then after that, you go to be a mentor for Justin Fields. That didn't really work out very well for a lot of reasons. The Bears obviously had Matt Nagy, who wasn't a very good head coach and just was not prepared to take on the criticism for, not just that, but not being able to draft right, I guess you could say, in a way, because of that whole Trubisky thing. So, Andy Dalton was made as a mentor there. Then he goes to the Saints and outperforms Jameis Winston there. I know we didn't get to see a lot of Jameis Winston last year. We only saw him play for, I think, like 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks of the season. Then he gets an injury and Andy Dalton plays, and Andy Dalton played lights out football. I thought he played pretty well last year. So do I think he's going to be starting for the Panthers this year? As long as they don't draft anybody like a starting quarterback, like if they draft like a Bryce Young, if they draft Anthony Richardson or C.J. Stroud, I would say Dalton is probably going to be a starter heading into next year. And I would be okay with that because you want a veteran. You want someone that has had experience under multiple different offenses like he has within the past 5 years. We'll say about at least 5 years with different offenses and different coordinators to play under. So he has a lot of experience, and he's going to be a mentor to whoever they end up drafting. Or if they do, they could be keeping Matt Corral and just kind of winging it with Matt Corral, and maybe he learns under Dalton. Who knows? So I think he could start. I think at least he's going to start the season, and we'll kind of just see how it goes from there. We'll just kind of play it by ear. But I don't think it's a bad signing. I don't know why you had to let go of... I kind of get why you had to let go of Sam Darnold for this. But, I don't know. They're just coming up with so many... At this point now, Carolina is so lost, they have no idea what to do. Their head is so high up in the clouds, they don't know what to do. So, I don't know. I think it's a good signing, though. It's a good enough signing that's it's gonna be worth something in the end. Next, you got Jacoby Myers, $33 million contract for 3 years. Do I think this is an improvement? Do I think it's something that they're going to love having? Is this someone that they can get acclimated into the offense? We'll talk about it. I don't think Jacoby Myers, I was kind of hoping the Giants were going to sign Jacoby Myers, if I'm being honest with you, because I like the idea of him playing in the inside of the interior offense and being like a slot receiver that can get routes inside the numbers. So I was kind of hoping that the Giants would have signed him to a deal because that would help Daniel Jones out a lot. It would help him out with trying to get somebody that is down inside the field and kind of be conservative in that way, and that kind of fits. He kind of fits into the Brian Dable scheme of offense, if that makes sense. Um, but Jacoby Myers did play under Josh McDaniels for years, so I understand why Josh McDaniels and the Raiders wanted to go with him, because they have experience, they have enough film on him, so they know what they can get from him. And I think that's fine for someone like Jimmy Garoppolo, who is now the starting quarterback for the Raiders. That's fine to get somebody like him. However, is there much of a separation between Myers and Hunter Renfrow? And that's kind of like the biggest question that I believe anybody would have. I personally think they're kind of similar in a way. Hunter Renfrow, I believe, is a bit more athletic than Myers. So that can kind of say some things. But I also think it's also a filler in for Darren Waller too. After you lose someone like a Darren Waller, you kind of want to gain something back to kind of help prevail with what the offense you're trying to build, and that's what McDaniels is doing, and that's why they were able to get Myers. But here's the thing that I'm not crazy for is that the $33 million contract that they signed for 3 years. I think that's a lot of money. Just like with Allen Lazard, I don't think you need to overpay for a receiver like that. I just think that's a lot of money, especially with someone like Myers, who wasn't even drafted. He was signed on as a free agent and was never drafted. He was an undrafted agent. And, for him to get that much money is pretty absurd. I think that's a lot of money for someone like him. So I don't love the signing. I don't think it's a terrible signing by any means. But I also do feel like they probably could have, I feel like they could have done something more. I feel like they could have gotten and pursued more to corners and secondary players. Like they could have gotten like a Stephon Gilmore. They could have tried to get something for him, or they could have tried to get something for like a Jalen Ramsey. Because if like teams like the Rams and the Colts are just kind of giving away players for basically nothing, I would be the Raiders. If I was the Raiders, I'd be calling up and making a deal with those guys and being able to make those deals with them. You know what I mean? Because I know that's what my team needs, and that's what the Raiders need to focus on. I don't think the offensive isn't a problem per se, but they need to fix up on the defense. And I don't think Jacoby Myers is a type that they really need. I think they need another reliable receiver, like at least a number 2 receiver that's going to help Jimmy Garoppolo push the ball down the field. So, I don't think this is bad. I don't think it's terrible at all. But I think the Raiders could have definitely done better with that, and I think they could have negotiated a better deal. Just like with getting the quarterback with Jimmy Garoppolo. I know Garoppolo has done a lot of big things. $67.5 million he's getting paid for the next 3 years. That's insane. And on top of that, he's getting that $40 million. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Derek Carr for a second because $40 million with Derek Carr. So Jimmy Garoppolo, we know his play already. We know what he's like. We know how the game he plays. We know he's a game manager, all that glorious stuff. I think as long as he stays healthy, keep in mind, Raiders fans, that could be very unlikely, though, because the guy is known to be injury prone. As long as Jimmy Garoppolo can stay healthy, I'm okay with the Raiders getting someone like a Jimmy Garoppolo as a bridge quarterback until they get their next guy. I'm absolutely okay with that. And this is a Raiders team that can win something if they wanted to. Like this is a team that is playoff bound. That might be crazy to say, but you take a look at the talent that they do have. You know what the play callers are. You know what they're like and everything. And the biggest thing that kind of keeps them back is, I believe, the defense. It's definitely the biggest thing that keeps them back significantly from doing just about anything. So they definitely needed to get a quarterback. I think Jimmy Garoppolo, who has played under Josh McDaniels before, is going to fit into the system well. I think he's a perfect game manager for the Raiders, and I think it's going to take a lot of defenses off of the field. It's going to keep them off of the field for a good chunk of time, and that's something. If you're the Raiders and you want to win, you want to win these kind of games, like these close, tight games, and not have to win by shootouts, what Derek Carr was doing, You can get someone like Jimmy Garoppolo. You can get somebody that's like a good game manager, and he's going to do his job. That's exactly what it is. He's going to do his job. He's going to manage the game well enough to help the Raiders get to some wins. And that is if he stays healthy. And he has to stay healthy in order for that to happen. All right, Matt Ryan gets released from the Colts. Do I believe he's going to get signed elsewhere, or is he going to retire? So I was kind of thinking about this myself. I feel like if I was Matt Ryan, I would retire already. I mean, there's no reason for you to continue playing football after a disastrous year that you had a year ago. I'm sorry, Matt Ryan. I love you, man. I would like for you to, but I just don't think you're football material like anymore. I think this is the time for you to retire. I mean, you look at Ben Roethlisberger, overplayed his time in the NFL, and he finally gave it up after, so many years of doing it. Eli knew when to retire. Phillip Rivers knew when to retire. Peyton Manning knew. Brett Favre eventually kind of gave it up in some ways. All those quarterbacks there. I think Matt Ryan is I think at this point is toast. I think he's done. But I would like to see him kind of be like a coach. I want him to stay in the NFL because I think he can do good things. Or if he really wanted to, he could be a sports analyst. And I know he's during the postseason, I did see him on like CBS. He was doing some kind of work with them. I believe it was sports analyst because he was on there a lot talking about all the playoff games that was going on. But I definitely would keep Matt Ryan around in the NFL. I don't personally think he's a starter anymore in this league with all the new quarterbacks coming in like a Mahomes and Allen and Burrow. I don't think Matt Ryan can definitely keep up with those guys. I think Matt Ryan and the rest of those quarterbacks are just way too out of the generation of Matt Ryan. There's no point in Matt Ryan trying to win anymore. I think it's just time for him to just kind of hang it up, see what he can do, and maybe mentor a young quarterback elsewhere. Maybe he serve as a backup for a little bit, or just be like a quarterback's coach, because I think he would be able to do just that fine in that. I just don't think he's a worthy of starting and signing to a big deal anymore. So I'm not upset about. Well, I am upset about it. I'm a little sad to see this kind of go. I was hoping Matt Ryan would have worked out with the Colts. I was kind of hoping that he would kind of lead them to the playoffs and be like a dark horse for this team, but not all of it was his fault. I mean, he didn't play great, obviously, but a lot of it was because the GM of Chris Ballard was just too complacent to let anything happen. The organization just doesn't want to win, and they just they want to keep signing these veteran quarterbacks and being a carousel. So I have no idea who they're going to have at quarterback next, but this team is definitely in a rebuild mode that's going to be getting rid of a lot within the next week or so, and they're going to be starting from scratch with this new coach. So, all right, so DeMeco Ryans, we all know he is now the head coach of the Houston Texans. Well, as a defensive coordinator from the Niners, we know what he was going to do. We knew he was going to want to sign one of his favorite corners, and we know he was going to try to build up on the defense, knowing that the Texans have had the worst defense in quite some time. And getting Jimmy Ward to start off of your rebuild on defense is going to pay dividends. Jimmy Ward for the Niners as a corner was probably one of their better corners after Richard Sherman left the team. And I think he's done a pretty good job with being the Niners the corner for the Niners. I think he's done a lot of good things with them, and I think he's going to continue to do what he can to play under the Texans defense. And we know that the Texans defense, we know the kind of defense that they do like to play. We understand that they're not spectacular at it, but there are some key pieces of talent on that defense, and those key pieces on defense is kind of wasting away a little bit. Like, we know the secondary isn't bad at all. We know they can play some good secondary and some good corners here and there. But I think Jimmy Ward kind of being like that veteran, that leader into that role in the corners, I think he definitely is going to contribute to the defense. and make the passing game for the opposing teams a bit more difficult. So that's good to see. But I think the Texans still need to do some more things in order for them to step up to their next game. But this was a good signing. I'm not upset about it. I think this is a start for the Texans, and I think they can do some big things with it now, knowing that they have a defensive-minded coach. So I think the Texans need to focus on the defense, and then they can just kind of work their way up and kind of rebuild this team to be semi decent. As far as quarterback goes with them, I have no idea. Again, I think they're pretty much done with Davis Mills. I don't think he's going to be starting going into next year. They could be potentially looking to draft a quarterback. I don't know who they're going to possibly get in this quarterback class, because it's very, at this point now, there's no clear-cut favorite of quarterbacks in this class that's kind of clear-cut and easy to pick from. So I think the Texans are going to be looking at a lot of that and seeing what they need to do, or do they need to get themselves a veteran. And at this time right now, with Baker Mayfield signing today to the Bucs, with Andy Dalton signing to the Panthers, Sam Darnold, which we'll talk about in a minute, signing to the Niners, their choices at quarterback are getting very slim. Carson Wentz is probably another option, maybe as a bridge guy. Maybe you can get like a Marcus Mariota to come back into the AFC South and compete in this, maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to kind of look into in a way if you're the Texans. If you want to try to, get some games going, you want to get some pieces and good games going in now, it starts here. You got to start doing it now. And I think Jimmy Ward is the beginning of what many things could come in Houston. And speaking of Sam Darnold that I said earlier, he did sign a contract to a 1-year deal with the 49ers. Okay. This is what bothers me about the 49ers, okay? Nothing to do with Kyle Shanahan. I know a lot of people want to blame him for the way this team has been and why they can't win any Super Bowls under him. Okay? I can understand the frustration, guys, but here's the problem here. You have a quarterback issue. You don't have the quarterback that, can win you a Super Bowl, that is in a Super Bowl mind. Okay, so Jimmy Garoppolo was a game manager since literally the day you traded for him. Since literally the day you traded for him, you knew what you were getting out of him based off of the film of what you've seen with him play in New England. Like, you knew there was talent there, but you didn't really clarify or really think about if this was a guy that was going to take you to an eventual Super Bowl. And, he hasn't really, and Jimmy Garoppolo has played well for the 49ers. And I feel like the fans, I feel like the franchise as a whole really has mismanaged, and they've mistreated the way they've treated Jimmy Garoppolo. They haven't given him enough credit that he deserves. But I do agree on one thing, though. He can't really, I don't think he's the kind of guy that I personally would trust in terms of winning you a big game. Like, if the 49ers would have done exactly what the Rams and the Lions did with trading Matthew Stafford and trading all of their first round picks to get him and trading away Jared Goff along that, it could have been a win-win situation. Like, Aaron Rodgers could have gone to the 49ers and excel really well there too, and probably would have had another Super Bowl ring. And Jimmy Garoppolo could have probably done well with the Green Bay Packers and build some kind of rapport with, like an Aaron Jones, or if Devontae Adams was still there, he would have like key pieces around him. You know what I mean? Like, obviously the 49ers would have definitely would have won a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Like, you take a look at it, man, all right? Look at what Aaron Rodgers would have had in San Francisco. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. You got that whole offensive line, the interior offensive line, that's incredible. You've got it all. You have it all on offense. You have it all on defense. You just need a quarterback. And if you can get someone like an Aaron Rodgers, that can help you win, that's something that speaks a lot of volume. But signing Sam Darnold, and as much as I've always appreciated and loved the way of Sam Darnold, and I liked him when he was first drafted out of uh, the University of Southern California. I liked him around then, but I always knew like the turnovers were always a big issue, and that was only getting worse by the time he was drafted by the Jets, by the time he played for the Panthers. And we just knew at this point now that he's going to his third team and he's going to a very, very talented team, I really wonder how this is all going to play out, because you still got him. You've got Brock Purdy, who will eventually be coming off of the IR once he heals up from his elbow injury. And then you got Trey Lance, who's also going to be coming off IR. So you got to kind of play quarterback carousel there. Who's going to be your starter? Is it going to be Darnold? Is it going to be Lance? Is it going to be Purdy? Like, you have to think about these things. And how much separation are there between the three quarterbacks? Quite truthfully, at this point, I would say Purdy is the better quarterback. But then you also kind of got to give Darnold the spot here until Lance is ready. And then you got to wait until Purdy recovers and kind of see where you can get from Purdy. And if that deal doesn't work out, then you go to a Trey Lance. Because I don't think San Francisco's getting rid of Lance. I don't think they're ready for that yet. But I think this is a Super Bowl winning caliber team as long as they get the quarterback right. And they have not been able to get it right yet. And again, that's not a fault of Kyle Shanahan. It's a fault of just not saving enough in the cap space to get that veteran quarterback or draft that quarterback that fits into your system perfectly. I don't think Trey Lance is a starter. Based off of what we've seen, based off of the film that we've seen, I don't think he's a starter in this league. Or at least not for this team. He's not a starter for this team. Like, this is a team that wants a quarterback that wants to push the ball down the field, but can also make the short intermediate passes. And that's exactly what Jimmy Garoppolo did. And that's why he was so successful with the Niners. Sam Darnold is a turnover machine. He'll throw interceptions left and right, or he'll fumble or he'll fumble the ball. So I'm a little concerned about it. Obviously, they needed a quarterback, but I felt like they could have done something a lot more with it, though. And then the other one that I also have from last night is the Lions, who signed David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears. I kind of knew this was going to happen based off of what my buddy Scott was saying. And I think this is a good sign. I think this is something that you need as a Lions fan. Like, obviously, Jameson Williams, he was already released and signed with the Saints. So that's already worked out good. But now you've got DeAndre Swift and you have David Montgomery. This works out perfectly. Now you have two solid running backs in the backfield that you can choose from. And you can also kind of incorporate DeAndre Swift as more into the passing game, whereas Montgomery can be like your goal line kind of person that you can run the ball with within the goal line and can score for you. Because this is a good running back, guys. Like, I don't know how many people really think about this, but David Montgomery is a good running back. Like, when he was drafted to Chicago about 5 years ago, I would say, about 5 years ago when he was drafted, like, we knew what was there. He's kind of, in a way, he's similar to what you could see from a Javonte Williams. If you've seen Javonte Williams from the Broncos play before, you know how hard this man is to tackle. You know he's so elusive when he gets the snap off, when he gets the carries. Like, you know what he's able to do. You know that he's a hard player to tackle, and you know he can gain quite a bit of yardage because of how quick on his feet he really is. That's exactly what Montgomery is. But that's something that the Lions do need. Like, they strictly need a running back that can forcefully run the ball without having to fumble it and forcefully, not playing well with the football or protecting the football well enough. Nothing against Jameson Williams at all, but I just feel like you get David Montgomery in that strictly run game and occasionally involve him in the passing game, but then you also got a DeAndre Swift that can do a bit of both a lot better. It's a good sign, though. I think he fits into the Dan Campbell side of things. I think he fits into this offensive coordinator's works of what he wants to do and how he wants to carry this offense. And I think the Lions are heading in the right direction, guys. Like, the Lions could potentially be, especially if Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay, which right now looks like it is, the Lions right now could probably win the NFC North. And that's no exaggeration. You know the Vikings are probably going to take a little bit of a step back because I think they have a lot of work to do on defense. And with Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator, he's going to have a lot of work and a lot of training that he's going to want to do over the offseason. But I think the way that we're looking at it right now, and the team that really has made the most improvements, it's the Detroit Lions. So far, they've done whatever they needed to do to succeed, and they've already started that with getting a running back. So it's a good deal for the Lions. They're getting something special. I think it's probably going to at least rejuvenate Montgomery, and it's going to help him out in the long run, as well as the offense as well, to try to keep them going into where they need to go. So I'm definitely happy with that. I'm definitely not upset about that whatsoever. And then other signings too. I didn't get to make enough. I believe that was it. Yeah, that was it for that one. Okay, so there were also some other signings too that happened throughout today too. Like, obviously, I do want to talk a little bit about them as well. But I'm probably not going to go too much into detail on it because I kind of want to just stay within the realm of an hour. But some of the biggest ones I definitely want to kind of touch up on more for next time is I definitely want to touch up on Baker Mayfield for signing with the Bucs. I definitely want to talk about that. That happened today. The New England Patriots signing Juju Smith-Schuster to their roster for a one-year deal. It's a big one. And then the biggest highlight of today's free agency is the Cowboys. And they were able to release, and which I didn't think was ever going to happen, they released Zeke Elliott today, the running back that's been with them since 2016. And they just released him today. I think that's an insane kind of release, and I just wonder who the next team is going to pick them up. And then we also can kind of talk about Jacoby Brissett signing with the Commanders too. I kind of think that's we'll kind of talk more about that. I kind of have to do a little bit more research on that one. Jadeveon Clowney being released from Cleveland today. Fletcher Cox got re-signed from the Eagles. That's a big deal. Definitely needed to re-sign him, so I'm happy the Eagles did that. Jamal Williams signing to a 3-year deal. And Miles Sanders, who also got drafted today. Not drafted, I'm sorry, got picked up today in free agency from Carolina. Which was something that everybody wanted to see where Miles Sanders was going to go next, especially all those Eagles fans. So there's definitely a lot of things to do talk about, and there's going to be a lot going on this week. But I think for tomorrow at least, I'm going to go live again tomorrow, and these are the typical players and the typical signings that I do want to talk about. Like, I want to talk about Baker Mayfield. I want to talk about Jacoby Brissett. I want to definitely talk about Zeke Elliott. Like, there's a lot of things I do want to talk about. So hopefully this will happen. So you can kind of keep a lookout for tomorrow for a live stream. I'll set it tonight so that way you guys kind of know and familiarize yourself already with it. But it will probably be sometime tomorrow around 8 o'clock, maybe 9 o'clock time frame. So just be on the lookout for that. We'll talk more about it tomorrow. But guys, if you have not done so already, I kind of want to just do this one more time before I do sign off. Please, if you have not done so already, drop a like on this video, leave a comment down below. Obviously, the content that I'm coming up with, right now it's free agency. We're heading into the draft season, and there's a lot of things to really talk about, guys, about the NFL. Like, the off season is probably one of the most exciting parts of any sports. And, I love doing this, and I want to be able to talk about it with you guys. And if you can drop a like on this video, be sure to leave some comments down below. Tell me what you like, what you don't like, what you want me to change up and everything. If you do all those things, guys, it's really going to help this channel grow to be better, bigger and better than what it already is. And if you have not done so already, if you see that subscribe button down below here, guys, if you just hit that subscribe button, it's going to help go a long way. I'm at 21 subscribers right now. Let's see if I can get more. So do all those things. Like, comment, subscribe. So, with all that being said, everybody, thanks again for tuning in. Really means a lot, obviously. Again, I enjoy doing this with you guys. Tomorrow, we'll kind of go live again, talk about some more signings and free agencies that's been going on within this week, and kind of talk about my personal thoughts about it and where I think it's going to be going moving forward. So, with all that being said, everybody, this is JP Football Fanatics saying peace.